Micah didn't raise his fists, not when they mocked him, not even when Trent shoved him hard against the gym wall in front of everyone. But when he reached into his pocket, pulled out his phone, and calmly said, "Can you come?" everything changed. Because the boy with the quiet eyes had just called the one man no bully wanted to meet. Micah Turner didn't talk much, but when he looked at you, really looked, there was something behind his eyes that made people pause. Not fear, not attitude, just stillness. The kind that feels heavier than silence. The kind that makes loud people uncomfortable. He was 14 when his mom took a job at Chatham General Hospital, and they packed up their small apartment in Decatur and moved to Savannah. New town, new school, same quiet boy with the same sketchpad always tucked under his arm like a shield. Lincoln Ridge Middle School was the kind of place where kids sorted themselves fast. You were either loud or invisible, athletic or laughed at, confident or cornered. Micah didn't fit any of the molds. He didn't care who was starting quarterback or who had the newest sneakers. At lunch, he sat by the window, pencil in hand, sketching out long-armed superheroes with quiet eyes like his own. He didn't speak unless spoken to, and even then, his answers were short. Not rude. Just enough. Most kids ignored him, some stared too long, but only one seemed to take his silence personally, Trent Holloway. Trent didn't need an introduction. The school practically ran on his name. His dad owned 5 car dealerships across the county and showed up every year with new uniforms for the basketball team, free tickets for the staff to Hawks games, and donations that somehow always earned Trent a pass on everything. He was funny, loud funny, the kind of kid who walked down the hall and dapped up teachers like they were old friends. But there was something in that laugh of his, that sharp, performative kind that needed a crowd. It started small. A slap to the back of the head in the hallway. A joke tossed across the cafeteria loud enough to turn heads. "Yo, Silent Mike, you even know how to speak, or you just draw your feelings." Micah never looked up. His dad always told him, "Don't hand people your piece. They only win," Calvin Turner used to say, "if they know they shook you." But Trent didn't like being ignored. And Micah's silence wasn't weakness, it was defiance. Quiet defiance, but still. By the second week, it escalated. Trent started calling him Silent Mike in front of teachers. Started yanking his backpack straps when he walked by. Started poking, pushing, testing. Still, Micah didn't react. That only made it worse. Then, one Friday, Trent struck gold. He saw Micah sketching near the back of the library, headphones in, zoned out. And just like that, the sketchbook was gone. "Let's see what Picasso been hiding," Trent shouted, flipping it open like it belonged to him. Micah froze. He didn't yell. Didn't lunge. He stood up and reached for it, voice low. "Give it back." Trent grinned like he'd just won a prize. "Ain't no way this you." "What, Silent Mike thinks he's Batman now." He held the sketchbook high, flashing a page to the crowd that was already gathering. One panel showed a tall, masked figure standing over a group of kids, drawn in shadows, cowering. "Yo, this him. Look, he made himself the hero." Someone snorted. Another laughed too hard. The page bent slightly in Trent's hand. Micah didn't blink. "It's mine." Trent's smile twitched. Then he dropped the sketchbook on the floor and stepped on it. Micah's heart pounded. Not from rage. From restraint. He bent down slowly, lifted the book, brushed off the dirt. Then walked away. He didn't tell his mom. She was working 12-hour shifts and barely sleeping. He didn't tell his dad either. Calvin had picked up contract work building patios and cabinets since retiring from the Marines. He'd grown quieter in recent years. Not distant, just still. Like he was used to saving his energy for when it mattered. Micah had learned a lot from him, most of it in silence. That night, Micah sat at his desk, flipping through the sketchbook. Some pages were bent. A few torn. He didn't redraw them. He just closed the cover, placed it on his shelf, and didn't touch it again all weekend. Monday came with more whispers. Someone had posted a picture of the drawings to the school group chat. Micah hadn't seen the post himself, but the stares told him enough. A teacher called on him in class, then said never mind when he didn't answer fast enough. It wasn't bullying in the obvious way. It was death by 1,000 smirks. By Thursday, Micah had stopped eating lunch in the cafeteria. He found a back stairwell where the light flickered and the air smelled like old sneakers. It wasn't peaceful, but it was private. He'd eat half a peanut butter sandwich and drink from his water bottle in silence. But Trent found him. "Yo," he said, leaning against the banister like he belonged there. "You hiding now, Mike?" Micah didn't answer. He walked past. Trent's eyes narrowed. "You think you're better than me, huh?" Micah didn't flinch. But later that day, his locker was pried open. The sketchbook, he had foolishly brought it again, was gone. He knew before he even saw it. And then he did see it, across the hall, held up like a trophy. Trent again. "You all want to see what Silent Mike dreams about," he called out. A roar of laughter. Micah walked forward slowly, like his body was on autopilot. "Give it back." "Say please." "It's mine." "You know that." Trent laughed, but it was tighter this time. Less playful. He flipped another page, then let the book drop and stepped on it again, twisting his foot for effect. Micah didn't shout. Didn't raise a hand. He picked up the book and walked away. That night, dinner was quiet. His mom was working late. His dad was in the garage sanding a plank of cedar. Micah didn't say anything. Calvin didn't ask. But on Friday, after the last bell, everything snapped. Micah was walking toward the side door, head down, when he heard it. "Yo!" "Silent Mike." He turned. Trent stood near the gym, two boys filming on their phones. One pretended to narrate. The other was already laughing. Micah's fists clenched. "You gonna cry again?" Trent barked. "Or finally do something?" The straps of Micah's backpack dug into his palms. He looked around. Nobody was stepping in. No teachers. No friends. Just silence. But something inside him, the part that had kept him quiet, that had held everything in, started cracking. Trent stepped closer. "Come on, man. Be a man for once." Then he shoved him. Hard. Micah stumbled backward, hit the wall. Pain burst in his shoulder. The crowd across the field turned. Someone laughed. Someone said, "Yo, is he really crying?" Micah didn't cry. He reached into his pocket. Pulled out his phone. "What, you calling your art teacher?" Trent laughed. Micah scrolled. Tapped one name. The line rang once. Twice. Then a voice, "Yeah, son?" Micah's voice didn't shake. "Can you come?" A pause. Then, "Where are you?" "By the gym." "I'm on my way." Click. Micah put his phone away. Trent blinked. "That's it? You think calling your daddy's gonna fix this?" Micah didn't respond. Trent stepped forward again. "You think I'm scared of your dad?" Micah met his eyes, steady. "You should be." And then, for once, Trent didn't have a comeback. Micah picked up his bag and walked away. Micah didn't sleep much that night. His body was still, but his thoughts kept looping. Trent's laugh, the shove, the look on his face when Micah said, "You should be." He replayed the moment he hit the wall and the moment he reached for his phone, not because he was scared, but because something deeper had cracked open, something even he didn't fully understand. In the silence of his room, he stared at the ceiling, wondering what his dad would say when he showed up. If he would show up. But deep down, Micah knew better. Calvin Turner had never once broken a promise, not even the silent ones. Morning broke gray and slow. Micah moved through the house like he was walking underwater. His mom had already left for the hospital, leaving a note by the toaster that just said, "Love you. Be kind to yourself." His dad didn't say much during breakfast. He poured his coffee, buttered a piece of toast, and nodded toward the front door when it was time to go. "You riding with me today?" No explanation. Just the weight of his voice filling the space. Micah grabbed his backpack without a word and followed. They didn't talk in the truck. The engine hummed low, and the windshield wipers scraped across a misty drizzle. Micah kept his eyes on the window, watching trees blur past like smudged lines on a sketch. His dad pulled into the Lincoln Ridge parking lot at 7:53 a.m. sharp and parked, but he didn't turn off the engine. Instead, he looked at Micah for a long moment. "You good?" Micah hesitated, then nodded. "Yeah." His dad steadied him. "You sure?" Another nod. "All right. Go on then. I'll be in soon." Micah stepped out and shut the door behind him. He didn't look back. He didn't have to. Inside, the school felt different. Not louder. Not quieter. Just charged. Like the hallway was holding its breath. Word travels fast in middle school, and by now, everyone knew Micah had called his father. But no one knew what that meant. Not yet. At 8:17 a.m., Calvin Turner walked through the front doors of Lincoln Ridge. He didn't wear a suit. He didn't carry a clipboard or briefcase. Just jeans, a plain dark gray jacket, and work boots still dusted with sawdust. But there was something about the way he moved, unhurried, unbothered, like he wasn't walking into a school but into his own space. The front desk secretary looked up from her computer and instantly straightened in her chair. "Good morning. Can I help you?" "Yes, ma'am," he said, polite but firm. "I'm here to speak with Principal Hargrove. My name's Calvin Turner. My son is Micah." She blinked. "Principal's in a meeting at the moment." Calvin met her eyes. "I'll wait." Something in his voice didn't allow for debate. She picked up the phone. "Mr. Hargrove? There's a parent here." "Mr. Turner." "Yes." "About his son." Pause. "He says he'll wait." Less than 2 minutes later, Principal Hargrove stepped into the lobby. He was tall, barrel-chested, and had the kind of handshake that was clearly designed to impress. "Mr. Turner. Apologies for the delay. Please, come with me." Calvin nodded once and followed. They entered the principal's office, leather chairs, plaques on the walls, a Keurig that still smelled like cinnamon roast. "Please, have a seat," Hargrove said, gesturing. But Calvin stayed standing. "I won't take much of your time," he said. "I'm here about my son. I believe he was physically assaulted yesterday outside your gym." Hargrove cleared his throat. "We take all student safety concerns very seriously here at Lincoln Ridge." "Good," Calvin said, cutting him off gently. "Then I'm sure you've already reviewed the camera footage and spoken with the students who were filming?" Silence. Hargrove shifted. "We are in the process of gathering more information." Calvin's gaze didn't budge. "You've had 18 hours. Well, as you know, these things can be complex." "No, sir," Calvin said, voice still calm. "It's not complex. A boy who's been bothering my son for weeks shoved him in front of a crowd while others filmed it. It was loud. It was public. And no adult stepped in. That's not complex. That's negligent." Hargrove opened his mouth, then shut it. Calvin's tone hadn't changed. It didn't rise. But every word landed like stone on concrete. "I'm not here to start a scene," Calvin continued. "But I need to understand how a child like Trent Holloway has been allowed to harass my son without consequence." Hargrove sighed. "Mr. Turner, Trent is well-connected. His father is very involved with our school. I don't care whose name is on the jerseys," Calvin said. No child gets a pass to damage another. Hargrove looked like he was searching for a manual that didn't exist. What would you like us to do? Calvin took a breath. I'd like to speak to him. Trent. Directly. Mr. Turner, that's highly irregular. You'll be present, Calvin assured him. I won't touch him. I won't raise my voice. I just want a word. Something in Hargrove's posture shifted. He hesitated, then nodded. Give me a few minutes. 10 minutes later, they were in a small conference room near the athletic wing. Calvin stood near the window. Hargrove sat by the door. Then Trent walked in, flanked by a guidance counselor. He slouched into the chair across from Calvin, arms crossed, smirk locked and loaded. So you're Silent Mike's dad? Calvin didn't move. I'm Micah's father. Yes. Trent shrugged. This about the sketchbook? He's too soft. Can't take a joke. Calvin's eyes didn't blink. You don't know me. But let me give you something to think about. I spent 16 years in the Marine Corps. 8 of them overseas. I've seen men with every advantage, every weapon, lose everything because they underestimated the cost of their actions. Trent's face twitched. Just a flicker. I'm not here to threaten you. I'm here because you've crossed the line. Repeatedly. And no one's made you stop. Silence. What you see as jokes, I see as patterns. You humiliate to feel powerful. You push to feel tall. But that ends now. Trent scoffed. He could have hit me. He didn't. That's what makes him stronger than you, Calvin said. He held his ground without losing who he is. Can you say the same? Trent opened his mouth, but nothing came out. You've been given space because of your last name. But names don't protect you from consequences forever. Calvin leaned in just slightly. What you do to others will echo. Maybe not tomorrow. But it always echoes. The world won't keep forgiving it. Hargrove shifted in his seat, clearly unsure if he was supposed to intervene. He didn't. From today forward, Calvin continued, you will not touch, insult, or provoke my son. You won't go near his things. You won't film him. You won't look for a laugh at his expense. Because if you do, next time, I won't come as his father. I'll come as a man who protects what's his. And I won't be coming to talk. Trent looked away. The smirk was gone. The boy who'd held court in every hallway now looked like he didn't recognize the room he was in. Calvin stood up. You can go. Trent blinked. What? I'm done. You can go. Trent got up and left without another word. Hargrove turned to Calvin, voice lower now. I appreciate your composure. Don't mistake quiet for weakness, Calvin replied. Then he walked out. In the hallway, Micah was waiting on a bench. Shoulders tight. Backpack at his feet. He didn't look up right away. You talked to him? I did. What did you say? Calvin sat down beside him, slow. Enough. They didn't say much else. They didn't need to. But something had shifted, something bigger than just a warning or a meeting. Because when a man like Calvin Turner stands still in a room, things move anyway. Micah didn't ask what his father had said to Trent. He didn't need to. There was something different in the way Calvin Turner sat beside him on that bench outside the office, shoulders relaxed, hands resting on his thighs like the weight he carried had been momentarily lifted. No fire in his eyes. No tension in his jaw. Just stillness, the kind that settles a storm without ever raising its voice. They didn't speak on the ride home. The radio stayed off. The windows cracked slightly to let in the late afternoon air. And when they pulled into the driveway, Calvin simply said, "Dinner's at 6," before heading into the garage to finish sanding the table he'd been working on all week. Micah went straight to his room, dropped his backpack by the wall, and stood in front of his bookshelf, staring at the space where his sketchpad used to sit. After a long moment, he reached up, pulled it down, and opened it to a blank page. His pencil moved slowly at first, hesitant lines, unsure shapes. But as the minutes passed, so did the hesitation. By the time the sky turned orange outside his window, a new character had started to take form. Not a superhero this time. Just a boy, standing tall in a hallway, shadows at his back, but none touching him. The next morning, Monday, Micah stepped into Lincoln Ridge Middle with his backpack over one shoulder, his sketch pad zipped tight inside. His chest wasn't puffed out. His walk wasn't cocky. But there was something in the way his feet moved, straight down the center of the hallway, not brushing the walls like he used to, that made people shift slightly as he passed. The kids who had laughed the hardest last week now watched him with something different in their eyes. Not fear. Not guilt. Just curiosity. Like they were seeing him clearly for the first time. In homeroom, Mr. Edmonds didn't mispronounce his name. In second period, when a worksheet was handed out, Micah actually got asked to help another student who was struggling with a drawing prompt in art. During lunch, he walked to his usual spot by the window, expecting to sit alone. But before he could even open his sandwich, a kid from science class, Jordan, the one who always wore headphones, plopped down across from him without a word. Didn't ask. Didn't explain. Just opened a bag of chips and offered him one. Micah blinked. Took one. Said nothing. A few minutes later, a girl from gym class, Talia, slid into the seat next to them and started unpacking her lunch. Still no one spoke. But the silence didn't feel like isolation anymore. It felt like something had made room for him. Something real. That afternoon, Principal Hargrove pulled Micah aside in the hallway. His voice was softer than usual, the words less rehearsed. "Micah," he said, "if you ever feel unsafe again, or if anyone gives you trouble, you come straight to me. That's not a formality. That's a promise." Micah nodded. "Okay." And, for the record, Hargrove added, almost awkwardly, "Your dad, he's a man worth listening to." Micah gave the faintest smile. "Yeah. I know." At home that evening, the house felt warmer somehow. His mom noticed him humming under his breath while setting the table. She didn't mention it, just gave him a little smile and ruffled his hair like she used to when he was younger. During dinner, Calvin didn't ask about the day. He didn't need to. He could see it in his son's posture, and the way he chewed slower, and the way his eyes didn't drift toward the floor as much. After the plates were cleared and the kitchen lights dimmed, Micah brought his sketch pad to the dining room table and started sketching again. This time, it wasn't superheroes leaping across cityscapes. It was people, real people. The janitor who always gave him a nod near the lockers. Talia, captured mid-stretch during gym. Jordan, hunched over his headphones with that distant stare he always had. One panel showed a father and son sitting quietly on a bench, the space between them empty, but full. Another depicted a hallway, not menacing, not loud, just calm, with a boy walking down its center. Alone, but never small. On Friday, something unexpected happened. Trent didn't just ignore Micah, he moved seats during lunch. No teachers asked him to. No counselor orchestrated it. He just picked up his tray and sat somewhere else. And when he passed Micah in the hallway later that day, their eyes met. Not for long. But long enough. There was no smirk. No phone in hand. No crowd to impress. Just a nod. Small. Barely noticeable. But real. Micah didn't nod back. He didn't need to. At night, in the quiet of his room, Micah sketched more than ever. Not out of escape, but out of reflection. One drawing showed a boy with his hand hovering over a phone, the name Dad glowing on the screen. Another showed two boys in a room, one seated, arms folded, the other standing, calm and firm, no shouting between them, just gravity. And the last one, still unfinished, was a wide shot of a hallway full of students parting down the middle as a boy walked straight through, head high, shoulders relaxed. That weekend, while he helped his dad clean out the garage, Micah asked the question that had been nudging at him all week. "Did you scare him?" Calvin was wiping down a set of tools. He paused. "Trent?" "Yeah. I don't know," Calvin said. "That wasn't the goal." Micah leaned against the workbench. "Then what was?" Calvin looked over, his eyes calm. To remind him what real power looks like. Micah was quiet for a long time. Then he smiled, small, crooked, real. "You kind of got that superhero vibe, you know." Calvin chuckled. "Don't let the bad knees fool you." They shared a laugh that didn't need to last long to matter. On Sunday night, Micah sat at his desk, flipping through his finished sketches. Some were inked. Some still rough. All of them honest. He wasn't trying to impress anyone anymore. He was just trying to remember. He drew a final panel, one of himself, standing still while shadows passed behind him untouched. The caption, written in small letters beneath the image, read, "He didn't raise his fists. He didn't raise his voice. But the world heard him anyway." Monday came like any other. But this time, when Micah walked through the front doors of Lincoln Ridge Middle School, he didn't hug the walls or slip past the lockers unnoticed. He walked straight through the center of the hallway. Some kids turned to look. Some didn't. But no one got in his way. When he passed Trent by the water fountain, there was no standoff, no glare. Just a glance. A shared understanding. And a peace that didn't need applause. Micah didn't smile. He didn't need to. Because respect, like strength, doesn't always speak. Sometimes, it just walks tall, quiet, and unshaken. As the author of The Boy with the Quiet Eyes, I want to take a moment and reflect on what this story is really about, and what I hope it leaves with you. Micah Turner never raised his fists. He didn't scream, retaliate, or try to become someone he wasn't just to survive middle school. He stood in his truth, even when it hurt. And in a world that often rewards the loudest voice in the room, Micah reminded us that sometimes the greatest strength is choosing not to respond the way people expect you to. It's easy to confuse silence with weakness, but in Micah's case, silence was control. It was dignity. It was a choice to protect his peace rather than fuel a fire. But Micah's strength didn't come from nowhere. It came from his father, a man who knew the cost of real violence, who taught his son not just how to stand tall, but when to stand tall. Calvin Turner didn't come to the school with threats or theatrics. He came with clarity. With calm. With presence. And that presence changed the atmosphere more than any punch ever could. There's a lesson here for all of us, students, parents, teachers, and anyone who's ever felt overlooked. True power isn't about control. It's not about fear. It's about self-respect. It's about choosing integrity even when no one is watching. And it's about standing firm when it would be easier to fold. For the young people listening, if you ever feel like your voice doesn't matter unless it's loud or angry, I want you to remember Micah. You don't have to become someone else to be strong. You don't have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes the most courageous thing you can do is hold your ground quietly, with your head up and your character intact. And for the parents, mentors, and adults, our children watch how we move. How we respond to pressure. How we carry our values. Calvin Turner didn't just defend his son, he modeled a kind of strength that sticks with you. And that, more than anything, is how cycles are broken. To everyone who's followed this story, thank you. From the bottom of my heart, thank you for listening, for reflecting, and for remembering that not all heroes wear capes. Some carry pencils. Some wear dusty work boots. And some walk through school hallways with quiet eyes and unshaken resolve. If this story meant something to you, please share it. Let it remind someone else that respect can be earned without raising your voice, and that the strongest people are often the ones who never stop being themselves.